Thursday at 6:30 p.m. on Facebook and on YouTube. And in addition, we are also aired on Radio 365 Grenada. It will be our pleasure to host you in this show. We talk about life, things that matter to persons in life, and things that are necessary to be discussed. Others may not discuss them, but join us 6:30 p.m. Living Life God's Way. Special guest. All right, and I think we lost her. All right, so I'm gonna have to do that myself. I'll allow Sophie to read the bio when she comes back. But we want to take this opportunity to welcome Alison Brown Ellis with us. Alison, it's a privilege to have you with us, and welcome to our program.
Thank you so much, Pastor Brian. It's really a pleasure to be here.
All right, it's good to have you with us. As soon as some of the others have been having some technical difficulties with the internet and stuff like that, so as soon as they're are able to jump back on with us, we'll continue as normal. But it's good to have you with us, Alison. I want to welcome everyone who is jumping on now. Everyone who is coming onto the program. Share the live with your friends. Share the live with your loved ones. Tell them Living Life God's Way is on, and we're going to have a good time this evening. There's going to be lots of information shared. Alison is going to go deep with some stuff. We're going to have some fun, and you will get some knowledge at the end of this program. So you may want to make some notes. Alison is a author. She has written a book called Life Lessons, and you're going to hear a lot about this book this evening. She's going to share some personal experiences with us. I'm totally looking forward to this. I know it's gonna be good. Alison, I hope you are excited as I am.
I am excited.
All right. So, Pastor Sophie, I'm going to give you the honor and privilege of sharing Alison's bio with us. So go right ahead, please.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Living Life God's Way. And as Pastor Brian said, we are so extremely honored to have Mrs. Alison Brown Ellis with us. So let me just give you a background history of her. She is an experienced corporate executive with over 23 years of expertise. In her capacity, she leads a dynamic team and sets strategies for Cape Shepherd card business. Alison has successfully led a company to acquire the status of the first non-financial institution in the English-speaking Latin American Caribbean region to obtain a principal membership license with Visa International. Alison holds an executive diploma from the Ivy Business School, Western University, and an MBA with distinction from the University of Surrey. She is also a certified John Maxwell team coach and affiliate member of the Chartered Institute of Marketers. She is currently a council member of the Barbados Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Despite humble beginnings, Alison has managed to successfully build her career and personal brand while breaking many glass ceilings. Today, Alison juggles many hats while maneuvering the rigors of the corporate world as a wife, mother, daughter, council member, and professional mentor to many. Life Lessons, a purpose-driven leadership journey, is her testament that it really does not matter where you start and to what is possible when dreams and aspirations are married with hard work, determination, consistency, and a strong faith in God. So Alison, we welcome you to this evening's program. Thanks for joining.
Thank you so much, Sophia. And thank you so much, Pastor Brian, again, for having me on this evening. It's really a pleasure to join you, and good evening to all of your guests as well.
All right. So as you're saying, Alison, we're excited to have you here, and we have both welcome you. So now let's get into this matter of life lessons. Last week we started a discussion, and we spoke about life lessons when it came to love, when it came to family. What was the other one, Pastor Sophie? Doesn't seem like.
Self-advocacy.
All right. So right. So going through social media and stuff, I always follow Alison on her page with her good quotes and encouraging words and stuff like that. And then the thought occurred to me, why not invite Alison Brown Ellis to our program? So I did. And having done that, I took the opportunity to read Alison's book, Life Lessons. Please note it's available on Amazon. You can get it electronically as well. I believe Alison has hard copy. She will tell us about that. But there's a lot of information in it. So Alison, tell us about your book, and then we'll start to dig into the meat of the matter.
Okay, so pretty much, like Classes of Purpose-Driven Leadership Journey it's really a story that encapsulates the journey that I've had from very humble beginnings. I would say to you that I raised up in an environment where the most basic need was in scarce commodity, and I remember from as early as a very, very young kid, I remember just the struggles, the constant struggles of not having enough of anything, and how that really has shaped my kind of approach to life in general. I see everything so differently because of my upbringing. I believe very strongly in gratitude and being thankful for everything, and the book is really just about my way of breaking through many of those glass ceilings that you referenced, where I defied a lot of odds to get to where I am today. And there were a lot of things that I did and was very intentional about that really helped to shape the path that my life took. Many persons, and I always say this, would probably not expect me to be where I am today, but because of how intentional I was and how strong my faith was in God, I was determined. I was very much determined to break the cycle of poverty that existed all around me. And essentially, my book is about me kind of mapping out some of the things that I am watching and witnessing our young professionals take for granted. I refer to them as blind spots. I believe that there's so many things that our younger generation is just not seeing, and we as more experienced professionals that have walked the path and continue to do so of just not pouring back in enough to help to shape and mold our upcoming generation. And the book really is about highlighting what I believe are those core skills and attributes that are necessary for success. So I'm not getting into technical competencies. It's really all about those, what people consider to be soft skills that I no longer consider to be soft skills. These are fundamentals if we are going to succeed in life. So the book speaks from attitude to mindset, to understanding your purpose and what drives you, and then getting into just really how do you build capacity? How do you ensure that you can establish your brand that helps you to be successful going forward? So, I mean, there's so much more, and I can go on, but the book really is intended to bring some context to what we as professionals need to focus on in terms of advancing our careers.
Okay, that's fantastic. So let me ask the first question, and then Pastor Sophie, I'll let you go ahead. Okay, so you said in your preamble that you grew up in humble beginnings, and how did that drive you? I read it in the book, but so I know the answer. So I want you to share it with those persons that are viewing it and that are going to listen to the program. How did it drive you as a young girl going into a teenager, then becoming a young adult, and
Mhm.
obviously moving on to the next step. How did your bringing help drive you?
I think I would have to say hands down, it was just recognizing that the life I was living was not the life I wanted. I
Mm,
wanted a better quality of life, and everything within me said, Allison, you cannot live this life. Your mom cannot continue to live this life.
mm,
My grandmother who's now passed away, but my mom and my grand were my rock. And well,
mm,
they are my rock because they have instilled such determination in me from watching them, whether it was at the plantation, but really just struggling to provide for their family in a
mm,
way that I could literally see the pain on their faces as they continued. They never lost faith. So
Mhm.
for me, the drive that I have really came from about recognizing that I was going to be the one to break that cycle. I needed to do right by them because you know what? I recognize that if someone in the family did not break the cycle, we would continue like that. And for me, that was not even an option. So
mm,
all the way through school, I tell people all the time I was never the smartest in the room. I was the one that tried the hardest, but
mm,
never the smartest. And
mm,
that meant something because people started to see the potential and people started to
Mm.
give me those opportunities because of the potential that they saw. So what my mom couldn't afford lessons, and I always remember that the teachers would say, still come anyway. And that
mm,
those being able to receive like that has done something for me, and that's why anyone that knows me and knows me well, I'm always giving because I've received so much. I am a blessing, and I say this all the time because I am here on this earth to continue to pour into others because persons have definitely poured into me, and that's what really drives me, Pastor Brian.
all right. Well, Pastor Sophie, go ahead.
Wow, that is such an amazing testimony to start with, understanding the understanding your background and where you came from. You spoke about in your preamble, uh, glass ceilings to break. What would you say is the one thing what is your motivating factor behind breaking those glass ceilings, especially and I'm going to take it down this road a bit, especially as a woman, how do you find what's your motivating factor and how has that felt breaking many of these glass ceilings that were set?
Well, you know what? It's an interesting question, and it has two different answers really. Because before I had my daughter, my whole thrust in terms of the effort I put in to get to where I was,
Mhm.
it really was all about making my mom proud. It really was. It was about having her experience things that she never dreamed of. And I lived in that space for a very long time, just always wanting to make her happy. After I had my daughter, however,
Right.
it became all about setting such a strong and a powerful example for her so that she recognizes that, baby girl, anything you want to achieve in this life, you can do it. And don't let anyone else tell you otherwise. Don't let your environment dictate what you will and will not do, but do it all while being grounded in self-belief, in faith, and recognizing that anything you put your mind to, you can achieve it. So I live in a space now where it's all about setting a very strong example for Amaya. I want her to recognize that she can do it.
Right.
And so that's very profound for me. And how it has felt, now it feels really, really good. Before, I would say to you that I kind of was conflicted in life for a bit because I would do all these things and they would be great things and people would acknowledge that they were, wow, Allison, you did, and I would play it down because I didn't feel as though my environment would handle me um people start to think you're boastful or I found that every time I achieved success before now, I would always play it down. I would, like simplify it. It's not a big deal. But no, I don't do that anymore. I'm very proud of what I've achieved now. And not that I'm boastful. I'm just acknowledging all that I've put in to get to where I am. And that means something to me now.
All right, that's fantastic, and I love that. We're having internet. If you hear us delayed, we're having internet challenges here. Go ahead, Pastor Sophie.
So I love what you said. I love the fact that it's twofold, and I'm quite sure that your mom is extremely proud of you, and your daughter has an amazing example to follow. Let's talk about some of the intentional steps that you took, some of the intentional steps that you would have taken in your journey to get where you are. So you would have shared a little bit about school, probably been secondary school. So take us from secondary school, your journey in intentionality to get to where you are and that you wanted.
Sure. What I would say to you is that from secondary school, you're in a space where you recognize that my dogs are going crazy. You're in a space where you recognize that, again, the same thing continued into secondary school. Definitely not the smartest in school, but someone that recognized that I needed to continue to apply myself. I could not just, I was not the student that could study before the night before an exam. So I lived through my teenage years being somewhat isolated, and the isolation was all about pouring myself into my books. I knew that knowledge was going to be my game changer. So I was very intentional to ensure that I would hit the books. I would barely scrape the 60s and the 70s, but it was enough to get me to the next level. And it wasn't that I didn't want to do better. That's just where I was. That's the kind of average I would always have. But I tried and I continued, and with every step and every day, I recognized that, you know what, every little win meant that I was getting a step closer, and I started to really embrace that, and that started to feed my energy. So I wasn't the child that would be concerned at all about, the others would go to, what they call like street fairs, and I was just not interested. Not that my mom would probably let me, but I was not interested either. I was very much into what assignment do I have next, or what assignment do I have due, what test do I have coming, and I literally poured myself into my books. As I remember this experience, and it's one that stood with me for a very long time, because when we got to the stage of you kind of branch off and you go university, my mom could not afford to send me university, and I was distraught, because all of my friends were either flying out of the country to go to university, or they were going to the University of the West Indies, and I couldn't do either. And I reached this roadblock. I was like, what is going to happen to me? Like literally, and it was really about, I remember spending an entire summer working in a very, very stuffy store in Broad Street, in Swan Street in Bridgetown. I have bad allergies, so I don't have to tell you that I was a mess, but I worked that entire summer because I wanted to be able to do something in terms of furthering my education. I knew it wasn't going to be university, and I remember my mom crying because she saw the effort I was putting in to be able to fund myself through. And I ended up having sufficient. I went to the Polytechnic, or Samuel Jackman Prescott Polytechnic. And from there, I felt like if my whole world changed. I started to blossom in such a way that I knew it could only be God that was guiding my path. I started to do so much better at school. It started to become easier to study and easier. And it just kind of took off from there. I then landed an attachment at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, and that attachment really brought focus for me. It was a full summer attachment, and I remember wanting to be an accountant at the time, and I sat there every single day in the accounts division. I was like, but I can't do this for a living. I can't look at numbers all day long. But I enjoyed it so much. But what I realized even more is that I loved engaging with people. I love the feeling of being able to interact and engage, and kind of I ended up having a part-time stint at Barclays Bank, and then it just kind of took off from there, because as I said to you, by this stage in my journey, things were coming so much easier for me because I had so much structure. I was so disciplined. I was so determined. I wanted to succeed. And I think that at that point, that was fueling me in such a way that I always put my best foot forward.
All right, Alison, to add to that, in the book you did mention about working at the bank and so on, but you said that when you went into the bank that you weren't you always say this in humility, that you weren't the smartest person working there. The others were at university and stuff like that, and I think you barely had a community college the
certificate, yeah.
but somehow your consistency, your deciding to go the next mile, and doing extra, even caused you to be the senior person over those persons who were at UE. Tell us a bit about that.
You know what I experienced during that entire process, and it was a project that was for 6 months. And of course, you're a bank girl, so you're all fussy now. And what I realized is that people lose interest very quickly. And because the job became monotonous, they stopped putting in the effort that was required to bring the project to fruition. I saw that and I thought, well, if I'm going to be a part of this thing, it cannot fail. Because bear in mind, as I said earlier, I'm on a mission to succeed. So how is it that I'm going to allow this project to fail? And what I did, which is what I don't see happening very often today, is that I picked up the slack for others. I picked up the slack, brought structure to the project, and I think my boss today tells me I love too much structure, but that's rooted in who I am. And I ensured that no matter, we had a deadline to meet, and it was important for me because I was a part of the project that we met that deadline. It was important to me that we maintain accuracy and, that we were able to say, at the end of the day, by the end of the 6 months, I wanted persons to say, good job. That was important to me. Today it's like, I have never been mediocre. I would have to say to you, I don't even understand the concept of that.
Alison, before you continue, let me jump in here quickly because you're dropping some good nuggets here. I want to hold quickly before you move on. You said mediocre wasn't your thing. You were, you structured how you didn't I just said, and I'm using your words, you weren't the smartest, you didn't have the money, but yet somehow in your mind you were able to bring it together. And I want to make some emphasis on this point, because sometimes we make excuses from what we don't have or so on. So that's why I'm kind of I'm sorry for interrupting you when you were on your floor, but I think we need to get in on this fact. You didn't you didn't grow up with much. You said you weren't the smartest, but yet you were driven. At that point, in nowhere in your mind were you thinking of the book life lessons. What was going on at that point in time? Tell us, please.
It comes back to me wanting to, I have this phrase that I used to say, I'm going to make something of myself. And I say back then I didn't know what that was. I had no concept of what making something of myself was. I just knew that I needed to evolve to be the best that I can be. And if that meant as part of the assignment that by the way, it was I didn't apply and get that job. It was it was a favor because it was the director at the time. My mom used to clean for him, and he knew our struggles. So he actually helped me to get in. So for me, it was like, again, persons putting me in a position where they're helping me, and I had every appreciation for the fact that at the end of the day, I want to succeed. I've been given an opportunity to succeed. It doesn't matter how boring this exercise is, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it well. And if the others on the team, because it was a team of 6 of us at the time, maybe they knew how their bread was buttered, but I knew that my bread was not buttered the same way. So for me, it was about pulling everything within me to get that assignment completed. And that Pastor Brian has literally been my ethos and my mantra for my entire life. I do not watch what others are doing, because once I understand the path and the journey I'm on, I don't allow myself to get distracted by what's going on around me.
Oh, interesting. So let's take a quick break. Pastor Sophie will come right back, and then we have Dr. Patricia jump right on there. So stay with us. We'll be right back. Is it me or you guys having internet challenges?
We are.
All right, so Pastor Sophie, go ahead, and then Dr. Patricia jump right in.
Welcome back, everyone. We apologize for all the technical difficulties that we're having with our internet connection, but we are chatting with Mrs. Alison Brown. She is a mom, wife, entrepreneur, CEO. She's an author of the book Life Lessons, and we're chatting with her. Let me take the opportunity to welcome the beautiful Dr. Patricia Benjamin with us. Thanks for coming in, Doc. So we're talking, and Alison would have shared so much about her early history, what it has happened. One of the things that I love what you said previously, Alison, was that you never allowed your environment to determine where you can reach, or your goals, your dreams, your aspirations. And a lot of times we find ourselves falling prey to our environment, our mindsets, our attitudes, behavioral patterns, and so forth, right? In your preamble, you mentioned fundamental skills, things that you think every successful person should have in their life. Let's chat a little bit about that, and Dr. Patricia will jump in with her piece thereafter.
You there, Alison?
Sorry, I missed the last part. I think Sophia was sticking just a bit. You're asking me to? Yes, I can.
Okay, so I'm asking you, what are some fundamental skills? Because you mentioned that in your preamble, that you think every person should have.
Right. Okay. What I would say to you, and this is actually one of my favorite buzzwords, and I say to my team and to others that engage with me, my mentees all the time, that attitude is everything. I think it starts there. I think that is the baseline for me in terms of what determines your level of success. I think that many times we find our own approach to life sometimes can block us because we see obstacles as just that. We see them as things that are thrown at us to prevent us from moving forward. For me, the attitude that is required for success is one where you see obstacles as growing pains. They're necessary to get you to the level that you need to get to. And I always say to persons that if you can rewire your thinking to believe that whenever an obstacle is coming your way, it's teaching you something, or it is helping you to build capacity to get to the next level, to me, that is so powerful, because you then start to approach situations and you're more solutions oriented. You are not focused on the you can't. That mindset and that mentality takes a back seat, because essentially you're recognizing that this thing has to happen. There's something that has to happen here for me to get to the next level, and therefore you're willing to and prepared to go through it and to grow through it. So the attitude and the mindset for me is one. The other thing which I find to be absolutely important is understanding your purpose, because purpose will drive you in such a way that even when you don't want to do something and you don't feel like doing it, it will still light some fire under you. It will still get you up in the morning, and it will still have you wondering, what did I miss when you're going to lie at night? Because you're constantly tied to a greater purpose. And to me, that helps to build consistency. And don't I always say to persons, don't be fooled. There's no such thing as success without consistency. Consistency defines you, and once you start to build a degree of consistency, it starts to shape your brand. And that then gives you opportunities. Your brand, your personal brand, helps to get you through certain doors, because you become known for certain things. There's certain attributes that are tied to your name. People start to talk about you in a positive way, even when you are not around, because they've heard of you or they've seen what you're capable of doing. And then the other thing I would say, just in terms of some of the fundamentals, is where you start to shape out and carve out leadership. And leadership, as I said to many of my team members only this week, because we're in the performance review process, is you don't have to have a manager title to your name to be a leader. And that myth needs to go from the back of our young professionals' minds. We need to recognize that once you see an opportunity to add value, that is where your headspace has to be. How can I add value to this? How can I use this as an opportunity to grow and to leap forward? And I think that those, and I could go on forever and ever, but I'll pause here, because to me, those are some of the fundamentals in terms of starting to align yourself for success. I will also say to you that success looks different for many people. I am more focused on fulfillment. What brings me peace? And that is something that is very important to me at this juncture in my life and in my career.
Fantastic. I think we lost Dr. Patricia there, so we'll continue. So, as you said earlier, Alison Brown Ellis is the author of the book Life Lessons. It's available on Amazon. If you're in Barbados, you can get your hard copy, or maybe Alison can send that hard copy for you. But electronically, it's available on Amazon.
Yes, it's available on Amazon Kindle for those persons that are international, that are maybe tuned in. But it's also available for purchase in the hard copy on Amazon as well. And as you said, if you're in Barbados, I do have a shipment that just arrived, so you could just kind of follow me on whichever of my channels you're most comfortable.
One can hear me, but I'm on the screen. So I'm going to continue.
Yes, it's the book is very, very good. I have it here on my Kindle, so you can get your Kindle copy. I think, let me see if Dr. Patricia is back there. Dr. Patricia, are you there? We are all having internet challenges this evening.
Yeah, but you can drop this.
Except Allison, it seems.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
I think
wow.
Dr. Patricia, are you there?
All right.
I'm here.
So while we're sorting out,
Go ahead, Dr.
So
Patricia.
all right.
Yes, yes. We seem to be having lots of technicals today, but listening to you, Alison, it sounds as though purpose and having a sense of why you're here, what you're all about, is fundamental. Everything you are about and that you are accomplishing. I want to ask you, what do you say to people who say, I don't know my purpose, I really don't know why I'm here, I've got this job, I don't really like doing it, but it pays the bills, but as for my purpose, I've really got no idea. I mean, how do you guide people like that? Because there's so many people who feel that way.
Very, very good question. There was a clip I was listening to could be about 2 or 3 years now, by T.D. Jakes, and he basically says that if you can't find your purpose, then first determine what you're passionate about. And once you can identify what you're passionate about, it tends to lead you into your purpose. And I recognize that through my own testimony, because I've always loved sharing and whatever I know, you can know. So that's my leadership style. I'm very inclusive, very collaborative. I would sit with you and I would walk you through a process. And I recognize that I am all about people and engaging with people and sharing and molding and shaping the lives of people. So it took, and I didn't really link it to passion or purpose at the time. But after hearing that clip, I recognized that part of my purpose, it's really about exactly what I'm passionate about, which is helping to develop and help people to evolve to be the best person that they can be. So if I were giving advice to anyone today with regards to identifying what your purpose, I think I'll say 2 things. You have to understand your current reality. Because your current reality may be that you have a job that you're basically holding down because family is important and survival is important. But you have to then balance that with understanding what is it that, there's this underlying thing in me that every 2 minutes or every 2 months it pops up in my head. It pops up as something, I would really love to do this. You kind of brush it aside and it keeps coming back. That thought that's whispering at you and nudging at your heartstring every 2 months, you could almost rest assured that that's tied somewhere to your purpose.
Yeah, that's such a good answer, Alison.
Yeah.
And I find as well, there are people that they kind of have an idea of the area that they're called to. But then the other issue is they don't know how to start. They'll say, I've got no idea where to start. I don't know where to go. What direction do you offer those people in that position?
Well, before I wrote the book, I would have gone through a whole exercise. No, part of my answer would say to them, grab a copy of the book, because the book really helps to ground people in their thoughts and causes persons to reflect. And I'm not just saying that because I'm the author. I'm saying that based on the feedback that so many persons have connected with me and said, wow, this book has really helped me to reflect refocus. And the reason why it helps them to refocus is because the book is written in such a way that it simplifies everything. So what I would say to you is that there's certain steps you have to take to determine how you're going to achieve your purpose. The first is spending that time to reflect and understand what it really is. But there's another fundamental bit, and it's really understanding where you are in the process.
Right.
Because if you don't know where you are in the process, you can't make you can make another move, but it may not be the next right move for you. So you really have to understand where you are. And once you build that level of awareness, then you can start to fit pieces of the puzzle together.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, what do you say to people like myself, in the sort of in their latter years, they're not going to see 40 again, they're not going to see 50 again, and they're thinking, well, Alison, this is all well and good and it sounds fantastic, but I think I better just play it safe, because where am I going at this time of my life, changing everything, having this new career, starting this new path? It's a little bit late. Let me leave it for those that are coming up, because really I've had my time, I've had my chance, and it's too late for me. What do you say?
Well, so here's the thing. I would say that age is just a number, and I strongly believe that, because I've seen people do remarkable things in the latter stages of their life. Look at the guy that founded KFC. I mean, my goodness, he was in his late 60s.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's just one side of it. The other side is that I believe that anyone that has that mindset, I think they literally could kind of flip the script on that thinking and recognize that there's an opportunity then for you to help others coming behind you.
Right.
Because you didn't accomplish something does not mean that others out there cannot benefit from the thoughts and the ideas and the experience and the vision that you have.
Yes.
Right. So do you think then, because I've asked myself this, that even if at whatever stage you pick your purpose, whatever stage you say, I'm going to start, I'm going to get moving, do you think all our previous experience, even if we think it's not related, it's got nothing to do with it, do you think all our previous experiences all come together to help us to manifest our purpose then? Do you think any experience was wasted? Do you think it was all a waste of time?
Absolutely not. I believe that there's a place and a purpose for every single thing we've been through in this life. And I'll give you an example or share something with you. I've never been good at letting go. Never. I always thought that I had to fix everything and to understand everything. And because that was just my personality. So I struggled with friendships. I struggled with the relationships in terms of boyfriend relationship. I struggled with those things because when you have a personality where you want to fix everything because you think that things are supposed to be together in a certain way, you struggle. So what I've learned now in this stage in my life is that I don't need to fix everything. I can accept that some things are broken and some things are supposed to be broken, because if they were never broken, I would have never seen.
Oh.
So there's a lesson in what I would have encountered at that time in that moment that is now helping me to think differently at this phase in my career and at this stage in my life. So I don't believe that any experience I've had has been wasted.
Yeah, that's such a great answer. I don't want to hold the conversation, but I do have another question for you before Pastor Brian jumps in. But it was such a great question. It's gone right out of my head. Right, so this is the question. So what happens then when you take courage and say, right, I'm gonna go for it? And then you've got people around you who will tell you, what do you think you're doing? Don't be silly. You're taking a chance, because they think they're trying to help you, yet they think that you're losing the plot, and they think you're missing something. And so what you do with the people who think they're helping, but their advice is really to keep you where you're at instead of pushing through to that next level. What do you do without offending them?
That really is a good question. Really.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. I believe that we have to always be respectful of those around us, because they too serve a purpose.
Right.
But there's a place when we're on a certain path where we've identified that this is what I really want to do. God has planted this seed within me, and I want to accomplish this thing, whatever this thing is. Yeah. I find it is so important to keep your circle tight, because people have, and sometimes they're not even aware that that's how they come over. So you have to be the one that's self-aware. You have to evaluate your circle and ensure that you have people within. And when I say circle, I mean the persons that you let in on your thoughts and your vision. Not just the people that coexist with you, the persons that you share with, because people want you to stay where you are so that they can be comfortable. And you have to be aware of those people and how close you let them in, because it's not to say get rid of them, because they're there for a purpose, but there's some that you have to leave in the outer circle.
Right.
While you continue to progress what you're doing. So I'll share with you, I wrote an entire book, and 3 people knew that I was writing a book. 3 people. Until probably 3 weeks before I launched the book. And that was intentional, because when you're on a growth path, you have to limit the negative energy that feeds into you. Right. And I strongly believe in energy. If your vibe is not right for me, you stay in the outer circle. And if I can avoid you as much as I can, I avoid you.
Yeah, I like that so much. Great answer. Great answer.
I sure like that as well. While Dr. Patricia was asking you, Alison, one of the things that I was reflecting on the book, and one of the things that you said is, as Patricia was mentioning age, one of the things you said was get up, dress up, and show up. Get up, dress up. What is the whole mindset when you mentioned that in the book? What was your mindset at that point, or what is your mindset as it relates to get up, dress up, and show up?
Yeah. So you know what is happening? We are currently back in a lockdown, right? And so I'm working from at home, which means it's more intense. Working from at home for me has always been more intense, because my day starts earlier and I go longer because there's no commuting. So literally I can just jump right on and jump right in. And that whole theme of get up, get dressed, and keep going is essentially to say to others that even when you don't feel like it, you have to get it done, because that's how you build consistency. So getting up, getting dressed, and showing up is all aligned to this is how you build consistency. To build consistency, you have to do it even when you don't feel like it. And believe you me, for the last 2 weeks, I personally have been struggling. Not struggling because I don't want to do what I need to do, struggling because this whole situation of the lockdown is daunting. It is consuming us in such a way that we don't have the same energy, because we've been here before. It's a point of frustration. And so I'm saying to you that if that was not one of my personal mantras, I would be struggling way more than I am, because I believe, and I've wired myself to believe that no matter what is happening, you get up, you get dressed, and you show up. because that is how you get to the next level. That is how you achieve the things that are before you that you want to achieve. That is how you make progress. That's how you advance. And I strongly believe, and it's something that I wish I could get to more young professionals to explain that to them. It's not the mood of the day.
Correct.
Love that. Love that. And one of the things you mentioned in the book is you don't have to be extreme, just be consistent. You don't have to be extreme. And this is one of the quotes from the books, ladies and gentlemen, our viewers. You don't have to be extreme, just be consistent. Pastor Sophie?
So, Alison, I just love all what you're saying, and my head is just like nodding all the time because the information is so vital and so eye-opening and so refreshing to hear, especially as a young woman, a career woman, going through different stages and different seasons in life. So for me, one of the things that I love that you said is two things: understanding your reality and understanding your passion. And sometimes a lot of us find ourselves in a space where the reality becomes so daunting that we don't know how to make our passion work for us. We don't know how to shift the mindset from daunting reality to this is where I want to be. So that's what I want to ask you. How did you, and I know you said you spoke about not having a mediocre attitude, you spoke about consistency. What your inner circle, how has your inner circle shaped you to reaching where you are at now in terms of overcoming the ways?
Yeah, good question. What I would say to you is that I joked around the other day and said to someone, I don't have a jealous bone in my body, right? And the reason why I say that is because when I was younger and I saw persons having things that I didn't have, it literally, I used to say, oh, when I grow up, I'm going to have that. Or when I got to, older and I saw certain things, I was in the habit of saving. So no matter what little I had, I would kind of carve out a piece, and it would take me sometimes a whole year to get to what it was I wanted. So I say that to say to you that there are different phases of which my inner circle did different things. Because as a teenager, my inner circle, who had way more than me, actually, I aspired to do well, because I knew that in doing well and having a proper education, I would be able to get those things for myself one day. So that's at that point. My inner circle now is a circle that is all about, we are about purpose. We are about understanding where we are in the journey and where we want to be. And it took me a long time, Sophia, to really find my inner circle. Because as I told you, I struggled with friendships for a long time. I struggled with always trying to fix a friendship, recognizing that there was nothing, we sometimes think that it's us every time something is going off track. Because I'm very reflective, so I spent so much time trying to think, but why are these friendships falling apart? But they were not for me. And I can say that now because they were not giving me the motivation and the inspiration that I needed to get to the level or to go down the path that I am going on now. So that's why I said to you, I don't feel as though anything is ever lost. I feel like if there's a purpose for everything, because it really caused me to shape and understand the kind of friends I need to have now to get to the next level. The other thing I would say is that my inner circle is made up of my family. And I say this because I believe, my mom, my grand passed away now, but my mom is my rock. And my mom is, in terms of inner circle, like having that there's a care that comes from her. She worries about how hard I work. I mean, like, I literally, it hurts me to know that she worries so much about how hard I work and how hard I push. But at the end of the day, she's there for me no matter what. So my husband, my daughter, that's my inner circle, because I'll say to you and I'll say to others, sometimes even your family is not as supportive as they need to be. And you still have to keep pushing forward.
Wow, love that. Patricia?
No, I really take on board the issue of friendships and your circle. I've heard it said, Alison, that when you have your circle of friends, that it's very important that you're not the most successful, you're not the smartest, you're not the wealthiest, you're not the number one in your circle. And I'm sure you've heard that before as well. But just for the benefit of our listeners, why do you think that advice is given so much?
I would have to say to you that I am now a firm believer of that advice.
Yeah.
You know what? And this is, you jumped on late, Dr. Patricia, but this is where I was saying earlier that I used to play down my accomplishments. Right. I went through this entire phase in my life and my career where I would just water everything down. I would not I would not want to pick up the phone and call and say, hey, and be all like, I didn't want to do that, because the energy coming from the other side would not be what I would need. And I would just say, you know what, just move on.
Yeah.
But so it's important that we recognize that, first of all, we need to be in a position to celebrate our wins. We need to be able to celebrate our successes. And if you cannot do that genuinely, then you need to evaluate your circle. So yes, I take the point that it's hard being the one that's the most accomplished, or the one that's probably more advanced. But if there's a way that friends do it and genuinely connect with each other, that doesn't allow you to feel as though you have to hide away from your successes. And I think that's where you show that you are willing and you're there and you're bringing them along with you. It is important that even if you are a step ahead, that they feel as though they are part of the process.
Yeah. And I think as well, what goes along with that is that if you are the smartest person, the most successful person, the most accomplished person in your circle, the problem is you can actually begin to rest on your laurels. You can begin to think everything's fine and not progress, because compared to everybody else, you're just doing amazing. You're just wonderful. And so there's no motivation. Whereas you've got other people that are pressing on, they're making progress. It's inspirational for you. So I think that's also, what worth noting.
Yeah, very good point. Very good point.
Stay with us. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
All right, welcome back to Living Life God's Way, everyone. Pastor Brian, you are currently muted, so you're going to have to unmute yourself so that we can hear you. But thank you very much for joining back. And we just have about 2 minutes before we get ready to wrap up evening's session. So we are going to ask Dr. Patricia to start us off with her closing statements, and then we go to Alison and then to Pastor Brian.
Yeah. Can I ask you, Alison, because I think one of the big lessons that we can learn is how to motivate ourselves. One morning we can get up, I don't feel motivated. We don't really inspire.
All right.
I think we lost.
Let's see what's going on.
I think we
Again,
lost.
we were saying we're having some internet challenges. Let's see. Dr. Patricia?
My back. All right. I was busy talking away to myself. I was just saying, you know, sometimes you get up in the mornings and you're,
All right. Wow. What an evening. So much. It's an evening of explosion. We are getting good information, fantastic top class information, and we are also getting bad internet. Whoa. Not good at all.
When you're about to level up, all the challenges come your way. So this is all that's happening now.
Yeah. Whoa. Okay. Until Dr. Patricia gets back on, just wanted to ask one final thing, Alison. In your book, you said consider a game plan. What do you mean by that? Or rather, consider your game plan. You have 30 seconds.
Oh, wow. I think it is so important that persons understand they can map out the vision they have for their life. You're not going to accomplish everything in the same day or the same year or even in the same decade, but you need to be able to at least have a plan for what you want the next 3 to 5 years to look like. And that may mean that once you can identify that, then you can start to stick the things in that need to be done to get you to the next level. So it's really having that broader vision and then being able to say, well, if I really want to get here, what are the things I have to do in between to achieve where I want to be? And it's really just about having a map, a roadmap for your life. And I use this phrase quite frequently. You have to be the CEO of your life. You have to take control. If you don't take control, you could find yourself living the life that others have carved out for you.
Wow. Dr. Patricia, let me see if we get better service with you. Can you hear us?
I can. I can't see you, but I can hear you. Yeah.
Go ahead with your last question.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, Alison, that it's great when you're inspired and motivated because you're on your purpose. But in reality, there are days when you really just don't want to hear a word. You just don't want to know. How do you get up from those places and get back on track?
That's a very good question. I think it ties in with having the roadmap for your life. I think that once you've defined where you want to be, you accept that there will be moments where you will not have the drive and you will not have the motivation to get to the next level. But with that purpose at the forefront of your mind and with that vision that you have mapped out, essentially you are then able to pull yourself back. And that's why it is so important. And this is my absolute personal mantra. You have to love what you do, because if you love what you do, there are days that you will be off track, but it will always bring you back and it will always recenter you. And that's why for me, I do not take anything in this era of my life that I'm not passionate about.
Wow. Excellent.
Wow.
That's really good.
I love that. Ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank you this evening. We want to thank Alison Brown Ellis for being with us in our program. And of course, Pastor Sophie and Dr. Patricia. It has been great information. We hope you've benefited from it. You know that the program will remain on our Facebook page. It's also on YouTube. So you can share the link with some friends and families and stuff like that. Show persons who are in a place where they think they're at the end and they need some motivation. What we've shared here this evening is great motivation. In addition, as we said earlier, Alison's book is on Amazon. You can get your electronic copy there, or she also has hard copies for those of us here in Barbados. So you don't have any excuse. The book is great. I have read it. I totally enjoyed it. I'm going to read it again because as a leader, I see some good points that I can refer to. Shoot, I may even say I may even use some of her words in some messages or something like that.
Thank you so much, Dr. Brian.
But it has been great. I'll let Pastor Sophie and Dr. Patricia just give their closing remarks, and then we are out of here. Looking forward to seeing you again next week. So, Dr. Patricia, and then Pastor Sophie, and then we're gone.
Yes, I just want to add. I just want to add my thanks as well to Alison Brown Ellis. Thank you so much, Alison, for sharing your truth, your wisdom, and your knowledge. We're so grateful because we all need to be empowered. We all need to be inspired. And as you say, life lessons, it's not just having the life, but it's learning the lessons as well. So your book seems like a real treasure trove of truth. So thank you so much for joining us. Thanks everybody else for listening in.
Thank you so much.
Great. And I concur with Pastor Brian and Dr. Patricia, sending my thanks for such a wealth of information this evening. It's motivational, it's inspiring, and I pray that all our listeners will be enthused to be consistent and persistent and intentional in their pursuit of purpose. So we want to thank you to all our listeners for viewing, and we're looking forward to see you next week at 6:30 p.m. for another transformational session. Have a great week, guys.
Thank you.
Bye. You guys don't go and stay on. Bye for now, audience.
Hi, I am Brian Calendar. Join me in the Living Life God's Way team every Thursday at 6:30 p.m. on Facebook and on YouTube. And in addition, we are also aired on Radio 365 Grenada. It will be our pleasure to host you in this show. We talk about life, things that matter to persons in life, and things that are necessary to be discussed, or others may not discuss them. But join us, 6:30 p.m., Living Life God's Way.